Black History Month. Omega Psi Phi fraternity on the crowd too. Well, Brother Kirkland, how you doing tonight, man? As we begin this time together, Black History Month Forum for Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Omicron Iota. We have a tremendous historian here, Ambibius, who's going to give us some perspective on the Black presence in the Bible. I'm excited. Been a couple of years, you and I have faced off and interacted. And so tonight, I'm looking forward to all of our viewers that's watching us by Facebook and YouTube. We here to tell the story. If we don't tell our story, the story won't be told. We're telling it from an Afrocentricity of Afrocentristic, African American, African tradition born in the ancient biblical text. So we just going to turn it over to my brother in a few minutes. He's going to share some slides, but first he's going to give us an intro. But I think before we do that, because we are a Christian organization and there are people that's viewing us, this is our regular Bible time here at the Friendship Church, I just want to begin with prayer. Father, we thank you for this night, and we thank you for Carter B. Woodson, who had the vision to lift our story, to tell our story from the lenses of people of the African diaspora. So tonight, God, we are retracing the beginnings of the beginnings, the genesis, the evolution of Black men and women in not just the United States of America, but in this global communion. We give you the praise and we give you the glory in Jesus' name, amen. There's some feedback, so let me, how are we going to do this, my brother? All right, okay, mute my mic, okay. Let me mute my mic, okay. There's some feedback. Brother Kirkland, you still hear the feedback?
Yeah, a little bit, but I think it's clearing up. But anyway, good evening, family. Brother Bishop, I just want to thank you so much for having me on your platform again. I think we did this back during COVID, maybe 3 years ago, and I thought it was a lot of fun. So I really always appreciate you inviting me on your platform. I just want to thank the Omicron Iota chapter of Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated for always thinking about me, especially around times like this. Man, I tell you, I feel honored. I feel privileged, but more importantly, I am humbled, man. And as far as this topic that we chose for the month, they're asking me about it. I just thought it would be a lot of fun to delve into the African presence in the Bible because I just feel as though like when I go to church or even growing up or when I go somewhere, I don't ever see the story presented from our lens, right? Now, I've heard people say things like, "Oh, well, we all know that. We all know that." I'm like, "Yeah, okay," and that's all fine and good, well, right? But I just felt for the night, maybe I would just show you some specific evidence, in the Bible, and hopefully the family will kind of like get a different perspective, and understand that we are not spectators to this book, right? Um, I just want to say up front, that Mega Psi Phi Fraternal Incorporated doesn't endorse any of my ideas or my views tonight. What I'm sharing with you.
But before Copeland, before we go on your views, I think I think just we need to step back just for a minute to tell everybody that this is almost like a new phenomenon because the Bible was interpreted from us from a Eurocentric aspect, that everything in the African American community, particularly in the church, always had a white Jesus or a white Mary or some biblical perspective. But it would just become later years, and one of the pioneers was the late King Hope Felder, who wrote a book, Trouble of Biblical Waters, which you are aware of. And he began to shape our perspective from moving away from a Eurocentric, white dominance perspective of our Christ and our religion. So I think that need to be said, because right now you are on the cutting edge. There have been some who tried to blast the trail, but you are doing a tremendous job in really unearthing the stuff that had been covered over the years. So I think that needs to be said in order to start the credibility that you've spent a lot of time in research and pulling this stuff together for us to have an authentic view of the biblical story. And that's all I want to say as you move forward in sharing your slides.
Brother Bishop, can I say something real quick, Brother Bishop? Can you mute one or two of your mics? I think you have several mics on, and it's causing feedback. If you mute a couple of those mics and leave one mic on, that'd be perfect, I think.
All right.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, brother. Right, and I'm not here to persuade anybody. I'm not here to change anybody's your view about your religion or anything like that. I'm just sharing some evidence with you, and if you don't believe a word I say, I just say go look it up. But before I get into the piece, I'd be remiss, if I didn't share with the family. It is Black History Month, which was founded by the late great Carter G. Woodson. This is his pivotal book, The Miseducation of the Negro. He founded it in 1926 in the month of February because it coincided with the birthdays of Douglass and Lincoln. He thought that Lincoln was a great freedom fighter for us, so that's how it started out. And then it morphed into 1976. It became Black History Month, right? Man, I gotta tell you, I gotta thank him. He was also a great Omega man, um, and I just gotta thank him because of his vision. He knew that people weren't gonna teach us about ourselves, right? And one of the things he said in that book was, he said, the best education that you can get is the one that you give yourself, right? So let's go back and start at the beginning, Brother Bishop, before I get into
Something
my
as you move
slides, right?
forward.
Um,
But Kirk,
in
let
the
me
book
say
of
something as you
Genesis,
move forward.
chapter 2,
I would say this, I
can you hear
think
me?
that you need to really press that, because when I was a kid growing up, one African American lady instructed me that I had to read Carter B. Woodson, The Miseducation of the Negro. I think that we need to push that book to this generation, because there is so much wealth of knowledge that Carter B. Woodson have captured within the pages of that book. And you please, I mean, it's really the foundation of what we're doing tonight, of discovering the contribution that Africans, because we are part of the diaspora, that we played. So thank you for bringing that book and lifting it. And I know we don't have much time, but put your weight on that book, because that book is the intro into what I believe gave you the appetite to dig deeper.
Absolutely. The family.
Yes, you got it. You co-host. You should be able to pull it up.
Okay, so somebody could do that for me.
My brother Malachi, the share the screen. He got it. Yes, he bringing it up. I'm excited about this, bro. Thank you for you doing what you need to do to give us the proper message. Go ahead. I think you're able to share your screen. Not
No,
yet.
we
Let me
can't.
see. Yet. Do you have it? Let me see. Malachi, I made him co-host, so he should be able to
We see
bring
you
it
on
up.
two screens, Brother Kirkland, but we don't see your presentation.
Yeah, I'm just waiting for him to let me. I'm just waiting to share the screen.
All right. You co-host. Hold on one second. The technician's gonna come and make sure that you can be able to share your information. He co-host. Should be able to share.
I'm seeing you, Kirk. I'm seeing
You can see it.
You should be able to share, my bro. That's on your end, not my end.
Just let me know if you can see that.
No, we can't see it, brother.
Not yet.
I
You doing a
can't,
share
I
screen?
can't hear you.
Yes, I am. Brother Bishop, you have to let me in.
Gosh, just start talking, man. Just start talking.
Wait a minute. Okay. It shows you as the co-host, but it shows somebody else as the host. They may have to let you in.
I am the host. I did
Right.
that.
Kingship
I am
worship.
the host, and he's the co-host, and he should be able to share his screen
Bishop.
at this point. It's on his end.
Friendship worship has to let you in.
Is there something on the other end that you have to let him in? He's in co-host.
Brother Bishop, where's Malachi? Is he there?
Malachi's here. We did everything on this end that we should do. He had it
There
up
we
a
go.
few minutes ago.
There we go. You
There
got
you
it?
are.
Yes,
I
there we
tell you, it
go.
was on his end.
Beautiful.
Now,
Beautiful.
brothers, please don't interject. This
So
is a
family, I want to
presentation
start
that's
out
going
with this picture right
by
here. I don't know
Facebook.
if you've ever
Thank you.
seen it. This is the Black Madonna and Child of Częstochowa, Poland family. This picture sits in the Jasna Gora Monastery in Poland, right? Popes alike, people from around the world, they go and pay homage to her like on an annual basis.
Hey,
You
listen,
brothers can,
bro,
you can
hey.
go there and visit this
don't hear
site too,
me.
right? They pray to the Black Madonna and Child because of her power and her miracles, right? Legend has it that Saint Luke painted this picture on a table built by Jesus himself, right? And I mean, there's more Black Madonnas in Europe than there is anywhere else in the world. And people make annual pilgrimages to these things every year. If you go on the internet, and I don't have that picture tonight for the sake of time, there's a picture, and the Vatican knows this, there's a picture of Pope John Paul II, who was the first pope from Poland. He has this in his private quarters. There's a picture of him praying to this. There's also a picture of Benedict and Francis, you know, when Francis took over from Benedict, sitting in the Vatican praying to this photo as well, right? It's probably kind of hard to see, but if you notice the picture, you know, Mary is gesturing with her right hand towards Jesus the Christ, you know, trying to distract attention away from her,
Okay,
just
I
let
can't
everybody
hear.
know that Jesus was a source of salvation, right? One of the things I want to point is that her name, we know her as Mary, M-A-R-Y, right? That's the name they gave her. But her name in the Medunetcher was Mary, M-E-R-I, or Aset, which means the beloved one. And so I just want to share that, brothers. And you think about it, right? It makes sense because, you know, if you go into Genesis chapter 2, 7 to 15, and when they talk about God is molding man from the dust of the earth in his own image, right? And he breathes into his nostrils and he places him in a garden, family, right? And some people be like, what does that mean, Kirkland? That's not significant. Yes, it is, because they give a description, right? And they talk about he places him in this land. He says the land of Cush and Havilah, where all the gold flows, right? They talk about two rivers, Brother Bishop. You know this, the Pishon, right? They said it winds through Havilah, and the Gihon, which
Recording in progress.
this winds through Cush, right? So I said, wow, wait a minute, what is that, right? And everybody knows that, you know, Noah had 3 sons. One of his sons' name was Ham. Ham had 4 sons. Mizraim, which is where Egypt is today. He had Canaan, which is the Palestinian strip where Israel be today. He had Kush, which is where the Sudan is today, right? And he had Punt, or Punt, which would be where Libya or Somalia is, right? Cush had four sons, and one of his sons was Havilah. So when I heard them talking about where all the gold flows, I just remember Herodotus talking about those parts of the land, and then they said all the way to the high waters of the Tigris and the Euphrates, which is the land of Mesopotamia, the land between two rivers, right? So that would make perfect sense to me, her being the beloved mother, because the ancient Africans referred to that land as Tamiri, the beloved land. So I just wanted to share that right there to give us some perspective, because images are very important, brothers, when we think about this, right? They said a picture is worth 1,000 words. So the images of Christ and the mother are very important, right? And you would have known if St. Luke walked with the Lord, he would have absolutely known what his mama looked like.
Brother Kirtland, let me ask you this question because I want you to move back and I don't want you to push too fast. Because I think we need to talk about the cradle of creation. You alluded to it, but go back to when you talk about Genesis, about the Euphrates and Eden, and give us a sense of geography where this is located and what climate is located, and talk to us about the pigmentation of the skin.
Well, brother, if I just talk to you about the continent of Africa, equatorial Africa, everybody knows that in order to live in a climate like that, that you have to have black skin.
Yeah, but
Moses' law says that, right? And
Kirtland, but everybody don't know that. That's why there's a teaching point. Everybody don't know that because they don't teach that in our kids in school. So I want you to really, to lay that out in terms of the geography and the climate, and the reason why they took Africans and brought them over to the hot climate of the South, because it all had its cradle in creation in the Euphrates and the river. Come on, let's talk about that.
yeah, well, like I said, I just gave you the lands of Cush and Havilah. That's Africa Central, and that would be the actual region where all human beings would come from, at least according to the genetic record. All human beings trace their mitochondrial DNA back to a woman who still lives in that region of the world today, right? That would be the region of like South Africa is, the Congo, Tanzania, Kenya, right? So when I read that, I said, wow, that would make really good sense, right? In the African folklore, they call that region of the world Kui land, or the real Garden of Eden, if you will. So for Meri in the Medunete on the pyramid walls, for her to call her Meri or Aset, which means the beloved one or the beloved mother, that would make perfect sense. Now, those lands. Now we talked about the Tigris and Euphrates, Mesopotamia. That's the land between two rivers. That would be the lands today known as what they would call the Middle East, which proper is really the northeast extension of Africa, right? And then Eastern Asia, right? So those lands back in ancient time, that was the northeast extension of Africa, family.
Excellent.
Even to this day, right? Israel sits on the African tectonic plate, right? And if you were to go and look at the osteopathic record or the archaeological record of the first people who are in these lands that where the Bible plays out at, going back like 10,000 years, they got the records in Jericho. They were called Natufians, and their skeletal remains, they bear the Africoid features, right? So you could tell that they had the
How you doing?
the lips and the nose, right?
Oh, thank
So,
you.
Greg, you got a hot mic, Greg.
Kirtland, you hear me?
Mute your phone, Mike. Greg, please.
Kirtland, do you hear me?
yes, I hear you.
Now, when I was in school, they identified that land as being Afro-Asiatic, that it had the influence of the Mideast, because there are times that people had to have attempted to rewrite the map and cut off the Middle East, Israel, from being on the continent of Africa, and even Egypt would be the northern part. There were Europeans that wanted to cut it off, but I'm so happy that you are lifting that tonight to let to know that it was Africans with the influence of the East. So you had the East and the West emerging in that area to create this wonderful mosaic.
Yeah, well, there's no question about that. You eventually would have, people coming from the north who
Yeah.
would interbreed and amalgamate with these Africans. They're forming a mulatto-sized population, but for the most part, the populations remain black in these lands where the Bible unfolds, right, Brother Bishop? And the thing about what I do, anytime I talk to people, I'm looking at stuff, from the lens of the Bible. See, I come to the Bible as a historian, right? And I bounce everything up against a timeline. And one thing I know about, Western folks or people who try to rewrite this Bible to fit their story is that they're always trying to place Mesopotamia at the beginning of civilization. Man, Kemet in Africa is way older than that, right? And furthermore, to show you in their ignorance when they try to tell you about it, so Mesopotamia, that was part of the Sumerian Empire, right? Which was basically an extension of Kush, the Kushites, right? There's another country over there called Elam, right, which is to the east of Sumer. They say Abraham comes from the town of Ur in Chaldea. Herodotus even said the Chaldeans were black folks, right? But that capital in Elam was called Kish or Tesh, which is even further evidence that the Kushite Empire extended all the way to the northeast, Brother Bishop.
Let me also say this. I got to say this because we got to, and I'm glad that we telling our story from a Afrocentric perspective, because there's a lot of people that's on a terrible assumption that European played a major part in the evolution of religion. That's totally inaccurate. I mean, totally inaccurate. And people need to know that that is not so. And so as you laid it out to us, and it's really just a survey, because I want you all to get an appetite, because our brother got so much that he's going to share with us tonight. And some people may become confused because the European did a job on a lot of Africans to make us feel that we didn't have a major part in the evolution or the creation of what we know as this newfound gospel religion. Thank you, my brother. Let's push it on. Let's push on. Let's push
Everyone,
on.
please mute their phones.
Like that.
Brother Bishop, you can actually mute everybody as well.
So
Thank you.
moving right along, family. So, Brother Bishop, one last point on that. These folks, you call them Europeans, whatever, right? The reason why they're always stealing our stuff is because they have no memory.
Right.
They don't have a story. That's why they steal our stuff, right? So I'm gonna move right along because I got an even better story for you, family. I want to show you this picture right here. I don't know if anybody's ever seen this, right? But this man right here, his name is Taharka, King Taharka. He's from the 25th dynasty in ancient Africa, what the white academicians call the black pharaohs, right? Which is kind of funny because all of them were black except for when the invaders came in from the north, the Indo-Asiatics came in, right? Now, you always hear the word pharaoh in the Bible. It's a Greek word that means the head of the house.
Right.
The real name of these kings was called Neset Beti. Now, this king is the only time that a pharaoh's name is mentioned in the Bible. And Bishop, if you go to 2 Kings 19:9 or Isaiah 37:9, during that time, we're talking about the 8th century BCE, there's a king of the Assyrians. His name is Sennacherib.
Right.
And Sennacherib is marching through the Levant, and he's dominating anything. And he gets word that Taharka was marching north to go up there to whoop his butt, right? And so now he's telling Hezekiah in the kingdom of Judah, he was like, listen, man, don't think that Taharka gonna come up there and save you. I'm paraphrasing right now, Bishop. I promise I get the Bible study next Wednesday. He said, don't think that Taharka gonna come to save you or your God come to save you. Hezekiah was shook in his boots, man. So Taharka, he goes up there and he whoops Sennacherib's butt, right? Now, here's the thing about this, Brother Bishop. Had he not done this, this is one of the most omitted stories in biblical history, my brother. Had he not done this, there'd be no Judah, there'd be no Israel, there'd be no Jerusalem. You wouldn't even have this thing going on today called Judaism and Christianity, right? This was a brother from the 25th dynasty. You know, it's funny because when George Reisner, the professor at Harvard University back in the 20s, when they found these tombs of these kings, they ruled in Egypt, you know, for 100 years. He said that they were dark-skinned white folks.
Can I say something, brother? You right on, and let me tell you this. A lot of people don't know because people, when you don't study and unearth it, the Pharaoh name is just a title. As you, I want you, you know, you hear in the Bible about the story of the Exodus, and God said, "Go tell Pharaoh, let my people go." But in reality, these were black brothers and black sisters who were dominant in that area. I mean, they were dominant in that area. And as you said, we don't have very many names of them. In the Bible, you could unearth it to extra biblical sources, which we call extra biblical sources, which is a historical archaeology studies. That's what we call. The Bible is one thing, but when you go to seminary and you train, they teach you how to unearth it through extra biblical sources. You're not just relying upon the Bible by lifting this. Brother Kirkland has have unearthed it through extra non-biblical sources such as archaeology, historical writings that have been unearthed over the time. And I want everybody to know, and I mean, you right on, my brother, that we played a significant part in oppressing people. You know what I mean? We at one point, dark-skinned people through the Bible oppress people. And that didn't give us a license for doing it, but thank you for lifting that. Let's move on. You're doing a great time, man. No, you're doing good. You're doing good, and I'm getting excited. You're doing good, man. You're right on.
Now, I put this picture up here, brothers, because I was thinking about Moses, right? And we all know the story of Moses, right? You know, tell Pharaoh, let my people go. But anyway, you know, Moses, this is the 42 negative confessions or the divine principles of Ma'at, right? So Moses was a student in Egypt, right? I think it says in Acts that, you know, Moses was educated in all the ways of the Egyptians. I think that's Acts 7:22 to 25, Brother Bishop, if I'm correct. So if you read these, it's a terrible picture, but this would be where he lifted the 10 Commandments, right? These things been in place, these moral codes of law have been in place like 5,000 years before he was born on the pyramid walls. For example, that one sin that he committed that says, "Thou shalt not kill," he violated that when he killed, quote unquote, one of Pharaoh's soldiers when he was on the run, right? The difference is that the negative confessions, they say, "I have not committed sin," or "I have not killed." There's a difference in interpretation. The "thou shalt not" gives people an out as far as moral codes of law, right? So anyway, let me move on, right? So Moses is on the run, and Jethro, Midian's daughters were trying to water their herd at a well, and these strangers, they were there first, right? The girls watered the herd. When they got back home, Jethro says, "Daughters, how did you get home so soon?" To which they retorted, and this is in Exodus 2:11-21, that Egyptian Moses helped us out. So he said, "Why didn't you bring him home for dinner?" Now, the rest of the story goes, again, I'm paraphrasing, he lives with Jethro, he marries Zipporah, right? Now, for whatever reason, now Midian family, I had to look that up. Midian is where Arabia would be today, right? Now, we were talking earlier about ancient maps and the tectonic plates and the shifting. That would have also been part of the Northeast. That would have been part of Ethiopia too, right? But then you get the Numbers 12:1, and Miriam and Aaron are jealous at Moses, and they come in their face and say, "Because you married a Cushite. you married a Cushite. Some Bible verses say you married an Ethiopian. So Bishop, I might need your help on this one, right? Because I'm like, well,
You know, can I say something, Brother Copeland?
why didn't they just say Zipporah? Were they referring to another wife?
No, let me say this. You know, this is one of the theological controversies that we have in terms of Miriam upset with Moses because she married a black woman. And reason why it's a controversy is because she was not a white woman, Miriam, and of course Moses wasn't a black woman, so it had to be the pigmentation must have been darker than theirs, because all of them were influenced with this Afrocentric type of pigmentation, and it's just mere speculation. Back then, you know, polygamy was the order of the day. That as long as you could take care of the wives, you could have as many. You know, Solomon had 300 wives and 700 concubines. That is a notation, and the Psalms of Solomon is nothing but a love story in which he display and talk about the insatiable love and desire that he had for black women. And that's what people understand. What we talking about tonight is about black people. But when we talk about Miriam upset with Moses, that's a theological controversy. We do know that it was not a European, was not a white woman, but it had to do perhaps with the pigmentation, that maybe she was much darker, burnt skin, because this notion of darkness meant burnt skin than the others. But, you know, it's just mere speculation, but she was black, they were black, and the whole Bible and the Old Testament is just full of African, Asiatic skinned people.
Well, I hear you, but now I'm going back to something that you said earlier about commentaries and additional sources, right? And the reason why I'm throwing this out there, because this is debated in theological circles too. And according to Flavius Josephus, he says that this Cushite woman we're talking about, that her name is Tharbis, Tharbis. So I'm just throwing it out there. We're not going to debate that tonight. I'm always thinking about why they select certain times in the Bible to say somebody's name. Other times they're just referencing where they're from. So that was my whole point about showing us that Moses was a student. He got his education in ancient Kemet. He would have known about these divine laws. He lifted 10 of them from here, I guess, when he got disenfranchised and decided to take a group of people who are following him out of those lands. Let me move to the next slide, because we're here time right now. I took this picture right here from Chancellor Williams' book, The Destruction of Black Civilization. So in the book of Acts 8:26-40, they talk about this Ethiopian eunuch, right, who's traveling from Jerusalem. You know, I guess he was on a trade mission, or maybe he went down there to pray or something like that, and he's reading the Bible, and he comes upon Philip, and Philip baptizes him out there, right? And they just casually mentioned that he was an official of the court of Queen Candace, right? Now, depending upon what you said, they said Candace of Cush. Again, some translations say Candace of Ethiopia, right? Well, who was Candace, right? Candace is a title that comes from the word Kentake, which means queen mother. So, and it wasn't just one, it was a whole reign of them, right? But anyway, they were warrior queens, they were empresses, you know, they supported the king. But this is a picture, this is a rendering of Queen Candace sitting on two pachyderms, or war elephants, if you will, sitting at the first cataract in Africa, waiting for Alexander the Great in 332 BC. When he's on his route to eat for Africa, he took Egypt very easily. But when he got to Merowe or Kush, she's leading her troops, waiting for him, right? And the legend has it that when he saw that beautiful sister leading her troops, man, you know, sitting on them pachyderms like that, that he turned away and retreated, because he didn't want to risk his string of victories, right? So you had also queens like Amani Reines. You know, she ruled around the same time as Christ, right? You had Amani Shiketo, Amani Torre. So there was a whole range of them, but I just felt it important to show her. Yeah, we get the Ethiopian eunuch, you know, but they made her sound like she was just a sidebar to that whole conversation. She would have been the most powerful woman in the world at that time, right? So don't get caught up in all that, brothers. I just want to show that. I'm gonna keep it moving. We're gonna have some fun. I gotta show you this right here. This is a picture painted by Edmund Long, 1883, and it's titled "Jesus, Mary, and Joseph Travel to Kemet." You can find this story in Matthew 2:13-23 because you know Joseph has a dream, and Lord goes to him because they say Herod is gonna kill every boy. He's gonna kill baby Jesus. Get up, pack your family up, and take them down into Kemet, or Egypt, if you will, and particularly the town of Heliopolis, right? Now, what I find interesting about this picture, and yeah, you can see the Europeanism and all that kind of stuff like that. It's a hard picture. You got to look very hard, you know, because you see mixed people in there too, Brother Bishop. But in the background, to the left of them, there is a ceremony going on of that Black Madonna and child I told you about, Aset and Harut. You got to look very hard making that connection. This painting today, this painting sits at this place in Egypt called the Church of the Holy Family, right, in the town of Heliopolis. Now, my thing is this, right, brothers, I know, Brother Kirkland, man, I know if I had to go hide out and somebody go send me to Greenwich, man, I'm going to stick out like a sore thumb, man. You know, I'm tall, dark, and handsome and all that. They're going to spot me out in a minute, right? Which begs the question, why would they send them down there? To be with his people. You understand?
Brother Curtin, you on to something. You know, I love the New Testament. The New Testament look back to the Old Testament as the Old Testament look forward to the New Testament. But one thing you're saying is that, remember, Mary, Joseph went back and forth from Egypt to where they were in Jerusalem, as well as the Ethiopian eunuch. He has a major role because he took the gospel to Ethiopia. He is the father that he was entrusted, and Philip, who was the evangelist, met him while he was on the chariot, asked him the question, "Do thou understand what thou readest?" And he said, "How can unless someone guide me?" And Philip took the time to guide him. He was baptized in the name of Lord Jesus Christ, and he went back to Ethiopia on fire. And there, that black unit, African unit, caused the gospel to explode in that section of Africa. So we do know the constant influence of religion, both in the garden, in the cradle of the Garden of Eden, as also the beginning of Christianity was born out of this coming backwards and forward from the Middle East to Egypt. You put up a picture, and that's one of the challenges that we had. We have an African American that we have allowed the Europeans to depict our story, and they have distorted the true story. The true story, you know, you see all these Caucasian people there now, but they were not there. And that's something that we need to tell our children. I was strategic when we moved over here and bought this building, and even at my old location, I was very strategic. I said, there will not be a European figure in an African American church because it devalues and it hurts our credibility of what we have been in the forefront in the emerging of true religion. Thank you for sharing that with us, and push it on, brother.
Yeah, I would beg to differ because I'm thinking like, you know, you're talking about that Christianity. It would have been where that eunuch was traveling at. He didn't have to go to the Middle East to get it. Anyway, let me show you this picture right here. You know, nobody knows what the Christ looks like, right? But I just had to share this to you. This is a gold coin minted by Emperor Justinian II, showing the brother on there. When I looked at this coin, man, I thought about the brothers that get their haircut and they get the sponge on it and they get all curly, right? And on the front of this coin, it says our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. And on the back, there's a picture of him, right? Now, I show that because, you know, up until up until probably the 15th, 16th century, um, the whole ancient world, bowed down to the Black Madonna child. They didn't have no concept of a European Jesus right that until Pope Julius II commissioned Michelangelo to paint the first official painting of a white Jesus, and he used his family members, right? So now, I mean, you can debate this every night you want, but I'm just talking about how people use a picture to co-opt us, to make us feel as though we're not part of this narrative, this story, and that we're not nothing, right? So I just wanted to share you some of the evidence that's out there from the ancient world. I can also, I'm gonna skip that. I'm gonna go to this one right here. This is one of the oldest renderings of Christ in the world today. This is a picture called Christ in His Glory Painted Black. This picture right here is in the Coptic Church today over in Africa, brother. But we've allowed this picture to co-opt us, right? Probably one of the most circulated pictures of a Christ ever seen. I think my son said it was downloaded probably 500 million times. Y'all know what this picture is right here. Everybody, I used to grow up with people in my neighborhood, man, had this picture in their dining room with King and the Kennedy boys, man. It's okay, though. You had it in your dining room. But a man by the name of Warner Sallman painted this picture back in 1946. It's the most circulated to this day. And, it's diametrically opposed to, for example, that, and for example, that, right? And then, even further, if you wanted to go to, the book of Revelations, chapter 1, 14 to 16, when they give a description of the Christ, whether it's a metaphor or not, Brother Bishop, hair like wool, feet like, burnt brass, right? Let me tell you something. They've taken that story out of a lot of Bibles, family. And for me, I asked the question why.
I would, Brother Kirkland, I would challenge some of the people.
About 10 or 12 minutes for some
But
commentaries.
Kirkland, I would challenge some of the people that they're able to go to the Vatican, because there is a black Madonna picture there in the Vatican. One of the popes had it. It was in the historical archives, lost for centuries, and one of the modern popes pulled it out, and it's in the Vatican there. I was amazed when I saw it. Almost brought tears to me, because as you indicated to me, my whole depiction of Christ was only what I saw as the last rendering that you placed up there. Thank you.
Hey, Brother Bishop, so while you were over the Vatican, did you see this picture right here? The Black St. Peter, the first pope.
Yes.
Did you see that when you were over there?
Yes. I saw that there too. Yes. At the Vatican.
That's Matthew 16:19. You know, say something like Jesus gave Peter the keys to the kingdom, bro. So we can let in whoever we want to. But lastly, I want to go back and share this with you too. This is a rendering of Simon of Cyrene. Here we go again, right? Like Simon of Cyrene, who was he? The African eunuch, who carried the cross for Jesus on his way to Calvary. I mean, all the Gospels write about that, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, right? We don't know how he got selected. We don't know what the Roman protocol was, for calling somebody out when they were going to crucify somebody. But he just happened to be there. He got called out. He was from Cyrene, which is where Libya would be today. I think he might have been there for the Passover. But, it reminded me of that verse in Matthew, I think 16:24-26, when Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he talks about take up your cross and follow me. Right. So again, I'm just pointing out some of our presence here, like not just lukewarm presence,
that's great. And
but things that were
kind
kind of like influential in the Bible. And that was my last slide.
But don't move too fast, because that's a great that is a great depiction of the burdens that Africans had to bear, and they bared it well. Must Jesus bear the cross alone and all the world go free? No, there's a cross for everyone, and there's a cross for me. And that has been our story. We have bared the cross, and that was a great depiction of not Cyrene, a black brother. As you said, we don't know how he was chosen, but I do believe he probably volunteered himself, as we do as African American. When there's a struggle, when there is a challenge, who steps up? We step up, and we have seen that over history in World War I, in the Civil War of the United States of America. Who steps up and who has resilience? We do. Thank you, brother.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks for allowing me to share. I just want to keep us on our time frame. Got 13 minutes
Brother
left.
Kirkland, I have a question.
Yes.
Earlier you showed a slide depicting one of the African kings with the
Yes.
chiseled nose. Can you
Yes.
speak on that and what that significance means?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the scholarship talks about when you look at any of our monuments over in Kemet in particular, that they chisel off the nose and they chisel off the lips, because one of the things, like I say, when you think about Black Africans, right, we leave our calling card everywhere we go, and that would be big, broad, basal nose, index, lips, and the dolichocephalia shaped head, right? And the reason why we look like that, it was really all about dissipating heat when you're in the sub-Saharan region, Brother Basilis, right? So, it's nobody's fault. That's why we look the way we look, and we leave our calling card everywhere we go. Just like I said about those Natufians over there in Jericho, right? We are the original people of this earth, right? We've been here for a very long time. For a 200,000 year period, nobody even left the continent of Africa, Brother Basilis. So we are the archetype of what a human being should look like. Everybody else is a mutation.
Brother Kurtman, also, I think I've been to Egypt, and I've seen the defacing of these pyramids, and it was largely because the European was trying to wipe out the contribution that people of the African diaspora had played. It was intentionally. Remember,
Exactly.
Constantine was the man that made Christianity the desired religion of the European Empire. And so they had to go and deface as many pyramids as they possibly could. So it's about discrediting our contribution biblically and historically, archaeologically, for our story not to be told. But thank you, Brother
Yeah.
Kirtland. You're telling our story.
And a lot of that
accurately.
started around 625 AD when the Arabs came in, right? So when the Greeks came in 332, and the Romans came in 30 BCE, their coming in Africa was more, it was a base of curiosity and knowledge, right? So they didn't rape, pillage, and plunder like the Arabs did. They emulated and copied and kind of like inserted themselves into, a lot of the monuments and the stories over there, right? So they weren't as destructive like the Arabs, and the Arabs were very destructive, right? And then obviously, you get the British, they come in, the French come in 1789, shooting the nose off the Sphinx and stuff like that, right? But the Greeks and the Romans, man, their gods were black. Jupiter, Zeus, and all them. As a matter of fact, the father of medicine, Hippocrates, for example, who lived 2,000, 3,000 years after Imhotep, the world's first physician, he even tells you in the first chapter of Hippocratic Oath where he got his knowledge from Asclepius, right? So the Greeks and Romans gave testimony to who they got their knowledge from. They studied at our feet. They went to our university in some instances. A lot of them didn't even graduate, right? But you're absolutely correct. But I didn't want to let that go about the Arabs being one of the most destructive influences on ancient Kemet. And those folks, they're still there today, pimping all these relics with Zahari Hawass, or whatever his name is over there. Man, the guy's hilarious, man. You got to see his interviews, man.
But Kurt, let's take some questions now as we wind it down. If any brothers have any questions, you can put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself and you can ask a direct question, and hopefully Brother Kirkland will be able to give the answer that's suitable for you to do some more research on your own. Is there any questions? If you do this, do the reaction and thumbs up, and we will take questions at this time from the audience. Any comments? We take comments and questions.
Brother Bishop, I just have one thing. I'm not a biblical scholar, but I have read most of the Bible. I think there's only one description of Christ in the entire Bible, and that's in Revelations 1:14 through 15. And I think that answers the question of everything we've been discussing this evening. I don't have a Bible in front of me, but if anyone has a Bible, go to Revelation
Well,
1.
in Isaiah, let me say, but in Isaiah also give a description of Jesus. His hair was like lamb wool. There are other several passages that gives us a description based upon how the authors foresaw Christ. And always remember this, we see Christ from our own different lenses. In Romans chapter 1, he said, God has made himself evidence through creation. So we all have different lenses. That's why we have all different religions, because people see God, see Christ, the world, religions from many different lenses. So there are other passages of scriptures in there that may not be as blatant, but it is settled that gives people, as the author gives their own interpretation of how they see God in their lenses, you know?
Yeah, I was just kind of like looking at the chat over here, and somebody was asking about books, man. I mean, you talking about books? You want some recommendations?
Yes, that'd be
There goes
great.
one right here, The Whitewashing of Christianity. I can send out a list.
Excellent.
I don't know
Whitewash
if you can see
Christianity,
that,
that's
Whitewashing of
excellent.
Christianity. Echoes of the Old Dark Land by Dr. Charles Finch. Excellent book on the biblical story, right?
And we'd be willing to put together a book list, and also remember, you just can't rely upon what you read to be authentic. I mean, you got to do as our brother Kirkland have done. You have to have many sources, and different sources will affirm. They become a consistent theme, a consistent language when it's authentic. If you get one author that's way out there and nobody else affirms them, it should be some level of suspicion, because when you're working on your doctorate, most people who do a doctorate understand that you are contributing your dissertation to a mass body of contributors. So you may be an expert in that little area, but there's other experts that affirms your research. So I think that's excellent to put together a book list and then our brother Kirkland is willing and ready to travel. Yes, spirituality and what is that? Spirituality before.
Religions by one of my professors, Kaba Kamene.
What is that? Spirituality before. Put it up.
Religion. I'll send out the book list for that. You got to have this as part of your library, right? You want the cosmic. You want the creation story from the African perspective. The Shabaka Stone by Kaba Kamene as well.
Yes.
You want to get more into the Bible? You want this one right here? What you want? You want this one right here by Shaka Musa Barashango? I'll put out a book list, family. These are standard books for anybody's library. If you want to pass on to your kids, or just have for knowledge reasons, they say, when an elder passes away, a library burns, right? But we need to start doing more reading.
But Kirtland, have you read K. Hofeller? Have you read his book, K. Hofeller, the Trouble of the Waters, the biblical book, Trouble of the Waters? Because I think some of the books that we gonna recommend need to start at ground one, because some of the stuff that Brother Kirkland is very advanced, because he's been doing this a long time. But you got to start, ground one, because if you get too far up there, start too far, it's just a vast amount of knowledge. And thank God that Omega Psi Phi Incorporated brothers are educated, black educated men. So we do have reading comprehension. We can comprehend what we read, but sometimes it takes a little time to put all the pieces to the puzzle. I'm grateful tonight for you, my brother. I guess for the vast knowledge, for being a student of Afrocentricity. You are a student. And we need to celebrate more brothers like you to tell our story. Let me say this about one of our ethnic groups, the Jews. They tell their story. When a child is born, they're told about the Passover, they're told about the Holocaust, anything about biblical ancient texts. They have made ceremonies over it, and they pass on. The Indians, through folktale, tell their story through their dance and through their music. But sad to say, at times, African American fail to tell our story from the perspective that other people will understand that we have been great contributors. So that's what Black History Month is all about. Black History Month.
Brother Bishop, you know what Black history is?
Yes.
Black history is the missing pages of world history, according to my professor, Dr. John Henry Clark.
Say that again now.
The missing pages of world history, brother.
Yes.
Those other people don't have no story. I mean, especially Europeans, they had no memory. That's why they try to copy ours. Man, do you know that in Florida, they were sending out permission slips. The school district was sending out permission slips for kids to participate in Black studies activities in school, brother. They burning our books, you know. So we ain't bothering anybody.
That's true.
We just trying to tell our story.
And
so
I'm glad you mentioned Florida
I just have to
because
believe that that's my fate.
I'm glad you mentioned Florida because
Do this, man. I'm just trying to be a good servant, man, and I appreciate you and the chapter having a good brother like myself on. I'm grateful, man.
But I'm grateful
I
for
really
you,
am.
and I'm glad you mentioned Florida about the governor DeSantis who tried to say we're not going to celebrate Black history. We're going to try to mute their voice. But there's too much of us who knows too much about it that cannot remain silent. And we will pass it on in whatever way we have to, like Nat Turner. When Nat Turner discovered the other parts of the Bible, you know, the slave master would make him read, slaves, obey your masters. But then when he discovered that there was other parts of the Bible, the gospel of liberation, where people would be liberated from the oppressed, then they tried their best to take him out. But his history still lives on, that we must emerge. I think this has been a great night. I really do. I thank Omega Psi Phi Fraternity, Omicron Iota, for allowing us to do this Black History Forum. Thank you, Brother Kirkland. We got great respect for our Omega brother. You make us proud because you are a crusader for lifting the plight of African America and these United States of America and this global community. Thank you, my brother. I think we're going to bring this to the end. If you have the last say, Brother Copeland, and it's all you.
Hey, listen, man, we come this far, right, from the Ma'afa man, right? We are the best of the best, right? And, you know, we come this far, right? There's something that sustained us for us to be right here. So no, they can't stop us, brother. And like I said, man, I'm just a servant, man. And I just thank you for the opportunity. Hotep family.
Hotep,
Thank you,
all
bro.
right? We're going to
Thank
bring
you.
it to a
Appreciate it.
close with this. Those probably you didn't see it at the beginning, but at the end, we're going to close out with a tribute to African-American history. Bring it on for my brother. Bring it on. Those who didn't see it, we want you to see this. A tribute to our African-American history. There you go. He's coming. There it goes. All right.